The first thing I need you to understand is that we didn't hear it once. We heard it every night. And every morning, we told ourselves the same thing. Wind. Just the wind pushing through the valley. The kind of explanation that feels true at 2 in the afternoon when the sun is out and the trees look like trees and nothing about the world seems wrong. But at night, in that tent, with the fabric pressing in like skin, it didn't sound like wind. It sounded like someone remembering how to walk. There were 4 of us. Me, Danny, Ray, and Chris. Old friends from college. The kind of group that reunites once a year and pretends nothing has changed. We've been planning this trip since January, a 5-day backcountry camping trip in the San Juan Range, southern Colorado. Remote. No cell service. No trails after the first 2 miles. That was the point. Danny had found the spot, said he'd seen it on some forum, a clearing next to a stream, flat enough for 4 tents surrounded by old-growth spruce, high elevation, about 11,000 feet, far enough from any road that you couldn't hear anything human at night. Nothing human. Those were his exact words. And I remember thinking it was a strange way to sell a campsite. We hiked in on a Thursday afternoon. The trail disappeared faster than expected. After the first mile, it narrowed to a boot-width line through the undergrowth. After the second, it was just broken branches and guesswork. But Danny kept walking like he knew the way. Confident, certain, not checking his phone, not second-guessing forks in the terrain, just moving like a man following a route he'd taken before. I almost said something. Didn't. The clearing was exactly where he said it would be. Flat. Sheltered on 3 sides by dense spruce. A stream cutting along the eastern edge. Shallow enough to cross, but loud enough to fill the silence, the kind of place that feels found, not made. We set up 4 tents in a loose square. Ray took the spot closest to the water. Chris and Danny took the middle. Mine was on the far side, facing the tree line. I remember standing at the edge of the clearing, looking into the forest, and feeling something I couldn't name. Not fear, not unease, exactly, recognition. Like I'd seen this exact arrangement of trees before, the same gap between the trunks, the same angle of shadow, the same way the branches didn't quite touch at the top, leaving a narrow stripe of sky. I told myself it was déjà vu. Everyone gets that. The first night was fine. Mostly, we cooked over a portable stove, drank too much whiskey, talked about things that didn't matter. The kind of conversation that fills space without saying anything. Danny was quieter than usual. Ray kept looking toward the tree line. Nobody mentioned it. Around 11, we turned in. The temperature dropped fast. Mountain air at that altitude doesn't cool. It erases warmth. 1 minute you're comfortable. The next, the cold is inside your jacket, inside your sleeping bag, pressing against your skin like something trying to get closer. I zipped the tent shut, checked it twice, lay down, closed my eyes, and for about 40 minutes, everything was normal. The stream filled the silence with a kind of white noise. Steady, predictable. The tent fabric shifted in small pulses, flexing with the breeze. My breathing slowed. My thoughts started to blur at the edges, the way they do right before sleep. Then something changed. Not a sound, not yet a feeling, the kind of feeling you get when someone stands too close behind you in a quiet room. The air shifts. The space behind you becomes occupied. My eyes opened. Nothing had moved. The tent looked the same. The zipper was shut, my bag was warm, the stream was still running. But the wind had stopped. Completely. Not a pause. Not a lull between gusts. A full stop, like someone had pressed a button. Too still. The tent fabric wasn't moving, not even slightly. At 11,000 feet in an open clearing surrounded by mountains, there is always wind. Always. Even a thread of it, enough to make the nylon whisper. Now there was nothing. I held my breath without meaning to. Listened. The stream was still there, but it sounded farther away, like the distance between me and the water had quietly doubled without the clearing changing shape. Then I heard it. A soft sound. Slow, rhythmic, coming from outside, maybe 10 feet from the tent wall. Footsteps. Not animal footsteps. Not the quick, irregular movement of something with 4 legs. These were deliberate, spaced evenly. Heel then toe, heel then toe. Human cadence. The kind of walk that knows where it's going. My hand found the flashlight. Fingers tight around the barrel. I didn't turn it on. Something about the sound made me not want to be seen, not want to announce myself, as if whatever was outside hadn't noticed me yet, and the flashlight would change that. The steps circled. Slowly, starting from the far side of my tent, curving around toward the front, then past the zipper, then around the back, one full loop, then another. On the 3rd pass, the footsteps stopped directly beside the tent wall, right next to my head, close enough that if the fabric weren't there, I could have reached out and touched whatever it was. Silence. Long, held silence. The kind that isn't empty. The kind that's full of something choosing not to speak. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. My chest ached from holding it. My jaw was clamped shut so hard my teeth hurt. Every part of me was locked rigid, pressed, flat against the ground, waiting for the next sound. It came. A single exhale, slow, controlled, right against the tent wall, close enough that the fabric moved, a tiny inward flex, like a hand pressing gently from outside. Then the footsteps resumed. Walking away, same rhythm, same pace, heel then toe, moving toward the center of the clearing, and then nothing. The wind returned gradually, like a door being opened somewhere far above. The tent started to breathe again. The stream sounded close. Normal, right where it should be. I lay there for 2 hours. Didn't sleep, didn't move. Just listened to the wind and the water and my own heartbeat, trying to convince myself that what I'd heard was an animal. An elk, maybe. A curious deer. Something with a simple, explainable reason for circling a tent. But deer don't exhale against fabric. Deer don't walk with human rhythm. Morning came slowly, the way it does when you've been watching for it. The light turned the tent walls from black to gray to pale gold. Birds started. The stream brightened in sound. Normal. Safe. I unzipped the tent and stepped out. The clearing looked exactly the same. Tents in their square. Stream running clean. Trees standing where trees should stand. Danny was already up, sitting on a rock near the stove, holding a mug of coffee he hadn't started drinking, staring at the ground. "You okay?" I asked. He looked up. Something in his face was off. Not scared, not tired. Confused. "Yeah," he said. He trailed off. Looked at his hands. "I woke up with dirt under my nails." I looked at his fingers. Dark crescents of soil packed beneath every nail. Both hands. Not the kind of dirt you pick up adjusting tent stakes. Deep, deliberate dirt. The kind you get from pressing your hands flat into the ground. Or digging. "Probably from setup yesterday," I said. He shook his head slowly. "I washed my hands last night. Before bed. I remember because the water was cold." Silence between us. The wrong kind. I walked back toward my tent to get my boots. That's when I saw the zipper. It was open, not all the way, about 8 inches. Just enough for a hand to fit through. And I knew, I was certain, I had zipped it shut. Checked it twice. That was one of the last things I remembered before lying down. The zipper had been opened from the inside. I crouched down and looked at the pull tab. It was on the interior side, pointed inward. Whoever opened it had been inside the tent when they did it. A cold feeling settled at the base of my spine. Not the mountain air. Something older than that. I stood up, looked across the clearing. Ray was climbing out of her tent, stretching. Chris was still inside his, rustling around. Danny was still on the rock, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. Everything looked normal. Everything sounded right. But standing there, in that early light, with the stream running and the birds calling and 4 tents glowing warm against the tree line, I felt it again, stronger this time. That recognition, not déjà vu. Déjà vu fades. It flickers and dissolves, and you laugh it off. This didn't dissolve. It deepened. Like I wasn't remembering a feeling. I was remembering a place. This place. This exact clearing, this exact arrangement, this exact morning. And I had no memory of ever being here before. But something in me did. I didn't say anything to the others. Not about the zipper. Not about the recognition. Not about the footsteps I'd heard circling my tent at 1 a.m. Some things feel less true when you say them out loud. Ray made breakfast, eggs and instant coffee, cooked on the little stove, while Chris complained about his sleeping pad. Normal sounds, normal complaints, the kind of morning that's supposed to make the night feel like a dream. It almost worked. Then Danny found the tracks. He'd walked to the stream to rinse his mug, came back fast, not running but moving with a stiffness that didn't match the morning. His face had that same confused expression, tighter now. Come look at this. We followed him to the eastern edge of the clearing, where the ground softened near the water. The soil was dark there, damp, the kind of surface that holds a print, and it was covered in them. Footprints, boot prints, circling the tents in wide, even loops, not random wandering, not the scattered mess of someone stumbling to pee in the dark. Patterns, deliberate, measured circles around each tent. 4 loops around mine, 4 around Danny's, 4 around each of the others, perfectly spaced, same stride length, same depth. Ray crouched down and pressed her boot next to one of the prints. It matched, not approximately, exactly. The same tread, the same size, the same slight wear on the outer heel that her particular pair of hiking boots had developed over the last year. That's mine, she said, quiet, almost to herself. Chris checked the next set. His boots, same tread, same size. Danny's matched his own. Mine matched mine. 4 sets of boot prints. 4 matching pairs, all circling the tents in identical patterns, all made by us, except none of us remembered leaving our tents. Sleepwalking, Chris said. Too fast. The word came out like he'd been holding it ready, waiting for someone to need it. Altitude can mess with your sleep. It's a thing. I read about it. Nobody argued. Nobody agreed either. Ray stood up slowly, brushed the dirt from her knees, looked at the clearing like she was seeing it for the first time. All 4 of us? She said. Same night? Same pattern? Chris didn't answer. The silence that followed wasn't comfortable. It was the kind of silence where everyone is thinking the same thing, but no one wants to be the first to say it. The kind where you can feel the group contract, each person pulling slightly inward, away from the others. Danny broke it. Let's just hike today. Get out of the clearing for a while, come back for dinner. Good idea, normal idea. The kind of suggestion that puts distance between you and the thing you don't want to look at. We packed day packs, water, snacks, rain layers, left the tent standing, hiked south along the stream for 3 hours, up through a boulder field to a ridge with a view of the whole valley. Beautiful, empty, no other tents, no other camps, no smoke, no trails, just mountains and trees and sky stretching out in every direction, indifferent and enormous, the kind of landscape that's supposed to make you feel small in a good way. It didn't feel good. It felt like confirmation, like the mountains were telling us no one is close, no one is coming. Whatever happens in that clearing, it happens between the 4 of you. We barely talked on the hike. Danny walked ahead. Ray stayed in the middle, headphones in, not listening to anything. Chris kept pace with me at the back but said nothing. His jaw was set. Something between us had shifted. Not broken, shifted. Like furniture rearranged in a room you know well. Everything's still there, but the space between things is wrong. We got back to camp around 5. Set up the stove. Cooked rice and canned chili. Ate without tasting it. The light faded early. Mountain shadow swallowed the clearing from the west. The trees going black in silhouette, while the sky above still held blue. Ray said she was turning in early. Didn't wait for a response. Chris followed 10 minutes later. Danny sat with me by the stove, poking at the last coals with a stick. "You heard it last night?" he said. Not a question. I looked at him. His face was lit from below by the dying embers, shadows filling the hollows of his eyes. "The walking," he continued, "around the tents." A pause. The stream filled it. "Yeah," I said, "I heard it." "Me too." Another pause. Longer. "Did you get up?" I asked. He shook his head. "Then who made the prints?" He didn't answer. Stabbed the coals one more time, sparks twisted upward, orange and brief. "I'm going to stay awake tonight," I said. "I want to see what happens." Danny looked at me for a long time, then nodded once. "Don't go outside," he said. Strange thing to say. Stranger that it sounded like a warning he'd heard before. I got into my tent at 9, zipped it shut, checked it 3 times, lay on top of my sleeping bag fully dressed, boots on, flashlight in hand. The plan was simple. Stay awake, listen, and if the footsteps came again, look. Just look. The wind was light, steady. The tent pulsed with it softly. The stream was louder tonight, swollen maybe from afternoon melt. My watch glowed green in the dark. 9:30, 10, 10:45. Nothing. Just wind. Water. The occasional pop from the trees, the kind made by temperature change and contracting wood. Normal sounds. Campsite sounds. Then at 11:12, I remember the exact time because I checked. The wind stopped again. Same as before, not a gradual fade. A cut, like a held breath. The tent went still. The stream sounded farther away, and the footsteps began. Same rhythm, same pace, heel, then toe. Starting from somewhere near the center of the clearing and moving toward the tents. My hand tightened on the flashlight. My breath went shallow. This time I was going to look. The steps circled Danny's tent first. 4 slow loops. Then moved to Chris's. 4 loops. Then Ray's. 4. Then mine. First pass. The sound was right outside the wall, close, intimate, the crunch of boot on soil, the slight compression of weight shifting from one foot to the other. Second pass. Third. On the 4th I moved. Slowly. Rolling onto my stomach. Reaching for the zipper. Pulling it down 1 tooth at a time, each click impossibly loud in the silence. I opened a 6-inch gap at the bottom of the door flap. Pressed my face to the opening. Looked out. Moonlight. Pale, thin, enough to see the clearing in shades of gray and silver. The tents were there, exactly where they should be. The trees stood at the edges, dark and vertical. Nobody was outside. The clearing was empty, but the footsteps continued. Right next to my tent. Right there. 2 feet from my face. The sound of boots on soil, the weight of a body, the rhythm of legs moving in practiced circles. And no one was making them. My stomach dropped. Not fear exactly, something colder. Something that bypassed fear and went straight to a place I didn't have a word for. The footsteps completed the 4th loop, then stopped. Right in front of the tent opening, right in front of my face. Silence. Long, then a voice. Low, quiet. Almost a whisper, but not quite. The kind of half volume you use when you're talking to someone in the same room, someone close, someone you don't need to project for. It said something I couldn't make out. 3 or 4 syllables spoken like a sentence fragment, like the middle of a thought. The voice was familiar, not in the way a stranger's voice can sometimes remind you of someone. Familiar the way your own name is familiar. Familiar the way a sound you've heard 10,000 times is familiar. It sounded like Danny. Not similar, not close, identical, the same pitch, the same cadence, the same slight roughness at the bottom of his register that I'd known for 15 years. Danny's voice. Speaking outside my tent. I held still, didn't respond, didn't breathe. The voice spoke again. Same fragment, same half whisper. Then again, slightly louder, like it was testing volume, finding the right level. Then footsteps again, moving away, toward the center of the clearing. I waited 30 seconds. Then I unzipped the tent the rest of the way and crawled out. The clearing was empty. Moonlight on the grass. Stream running. Nothing moving. I stood. Walked to Danny's tent. The zipper was shut. "Danny?" A rustle from inside. Then his voice. Groggy, thick with sleep. "What? Were you outside just now?" A pause. Movement. He unzipped his tent, face creased, eyes half shut. "No, I was asleep." "What time is it?" 11:20. He looked at me, then past me at the clearing. "You heard it again?" he said. It sounded like you." His face changed. Not dramatically, just a small shift around the eyes. Something between confusion and something older. Something like recognition. The same feeling I'd had that morning. The same one I couldn't name. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, Ray's tent unzipped. She leaned out, hair loose, face tight with something that wasn't tiredness. "I heard it too," she said. "The footsteps?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. The voice. A beat. It sounded like me. The clearing held us in the moonlight. 3 people standing between their tents, looking at each other with an expression none of us could explain, and a voice that sounded like Danny, coming from outside. A voice that sounded like Ray, heard from inside her own tent. And somewhere in the space between those 2 facts, a question forming that none of us wanted to finish. If the voices sounded like us, who was out here speaking? Nobody answered. We stood there in the clearing. Me, Danny, Ray, staring at each other with the kind of silence that doesn't need words, because words would make it worse. Chris's tent stayed zipped. Ray called his name. Twice. No response. She crouched down and pulled the zipper back. He was inside. Asleep. Deeply asleep. The kind of sleep that looks deliberate, like the body chose it the way you'd choose to lock a door. Eyes closed, breathing even, hands resting at his sides. His boots were on, laced, tied, caked with fresh dirt. Ray looked at me. I looked at Danny. Danny was already staring at Chris's boots, and his expression had gone somewhere past confusion into a kind of flat, mechanical focus. The look of someone trying to solve a problem that doesn't have edges. "Chris." Danny's voice was firm, loud enough to break sleep. "Nothing." "Chris." His eyes opened, not gradually, instantly. One moment shut, the next, wide and fixed on the ceiling of the tent. He didn't blink for 4 full seconds. Then he sat up. "What happened?" "You tell us," Ray said. "Your boots are on?" He looked down, saw the dirt. The laces pulled tight. His hands came up slowly, and he stared at them the way Danny had that morning. Soil under every nail. "I didn't leave," he said. "Your boots say different." "I didn't leave." His voice cracked on the second time, not from lying, from believing himself and seeing proof that he was wrong. We didn't sleep after that. The 4 of us sat in a loose circle near the dead stove, jackets pulled tight, watching the clearing like it owed us something. Nobody suggested going back to the tents. Nobody suggested leaving either. The night passed in long, awful minutes. Dawn came. Gray first, then gold. The trees took shape again, lost their silhouettes, became wood and bark and needles. The stream brightened. A bird called from somewhere high and far. "Morning." "Safe." That word again. I kept using it like a shield, but it was getting thinner. Ray was the first to break the silence. She was sitting with her phone, swiping through something. The screen glow on her face made her look younger, then older, then wrong in a way I couldn't place. "Guys." One word. Barely spoken. We looked at her. "Come here." She turned the phone toward us. The photo app was open. She scrolled slowly, moving backward through her camera roll. Pictures from the hike in, the trailhead, her apartment before the trip. Normal things. Then a gap. Then photos she didn't recognize. Trees. Dense spruce. A stream cutting through flat ground. Rocky soil. 4 tents arranged in a loose square. Our tents. Our gear. This clearing. The timestamp said March 9th. 7 weeks ago. "I wasn't here in March," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hand wasn't. The phone trembled slightly, catching the light. "I was in Denver in March. I was at work. I have emails from that week." The photos were detailed. Not accidental pocket shots. Composed, intentional. Wide angles of the clearing from different positions, close-ups of the soil near the stream, a shot of the tree line at dusk, the gap between the trunks exactly as I'd seen it, that same narrow stripe of sky. 7 photos in total. The last one made Ray put the phone down. It showed the 4 tents at night lit from inside, glowing amber against the dark, taken from outside the clearing from the tree line, from a vantage point that meant whoever took it was standing in the forest, looking in, and it was taken on her phone. I didn't take these. Who else has access to your phone? Danny asked. Nobody. That word settled between us like a stone dropped into still water, rings of implication spreading outward. Chris reached for his own phone, scrolled. His face changed. Same thing. Photos from this clearing. Dated March 9th. Trees, tents, stream, soil. One nighttime shot from the tree line, on his phone. Taken by no one. Danny checked his. Same. My hands were steady when I picked up mine. I don't know how. The screen lit up and I opened the camera roll and scrolled backward through time. Past the hike photos, past the week before, past April and into March. There they were. 7 photos. Same clearing, same angles, same date. March 9th. The same day. 4 phones. 4 matching photo sets. All from a trip none of us remembered taking to a place none of us had ever been until now. Except apparently we had been here before. This doesn't make sense. Chris was pacing now. Short, tight circles near the stove. His voice was higher than usual. Phones can glitch. Metadata gets corrupted. This is a software thing. All 4 phones? Ray said. Same date, same location? Maybe it's the altitude, GPS drift, some kind of... Chris. Danny's voice was low. Calm in the way that calm scares you more than panic. Stop. Chris stopped. Danny was sitting very still and he hadn't checked his phone after the first scroll. He was looking at the ground between his boots, and his mouth was doing something, shaping words he wasn't saying, testing them. Then he spoke. I've been dreaming about this place. Nobody moved. Since February. Maybe earlier. I can't remember when it started, just this clearing, the trees, the stream, always at night. Always from the same angle, always standing right here in this exact spot. He looked up. That's why I found this campsite. I wasn't looking for it. I already knew where it was. The air in the clearing changed. Not temperature, not wind. Something less physical. Something like the space between 4 people who've just realized they're not where they chose to be. You told us you found it on a forum, I said. I know what I told you. Was that true? The pause that followed lasted long enough for the stream to count 3 full cycles of current against the rocks. I don't know, Danny said. I remember saying it. I remember believing it. I can't find the forum now. I looked last week. It's not there. Maybe it never was. Ray stood up, walked to her tent, came back with a small leather journal, the one she'd been keeping for years. She opened it to a page near the middle and held it out. I found this last night. Before the voice, the page was filled with her handwriting, small, slanted, unmistakably hers. It described a campsite in southern Colorado, the stream, the spruce, the flat ground, the way the moonlight hit the tent walls. It described sounds outside the tents at night. It described footprints in the morning. The entry was dated March 10th. I didn't write this, she said. I mean, it's my handwriting, my pen, my words. But I have no memory of writing it, none. I went to my pack. I'd brought a notebook too, a cheap spiral-bound thing I used for trip notes, distances, elevation, weather, practical stuff. I opened it. The first few pages were blank, waiting for this trip's notes. Then a page in the middle filled. My handwriting, cramped and angular, pressed hard into the paper like the pen was trying to get through. 2 paragraphs. The first described the clearing at night. The circle of tents, the sound of footsteps, the wind stopping. The second was shorter. It said, it doesn't matter how many times, it starts the same way. The footsteps come in 4s. The voice comes second. Don't answer it. Don't follow the pattern outside. You followed it last time. You followed it every time. You won't remember this in the morning. My handwriting, my notebook, my words, telling me something I'd already forgotten. The clearing felt smaller, the trees closer. Not physically. The distances were the same, but the space between me and the forest had lost its neutrality. It wasn't backdrop anymore. It was boundary. How many times? Chris asked. Nobody knew what he meant at first. The note says, how many times? How many times have we been here? No answer. The stream ran. A branch shifted somewhere in the canopy. We need to leave, Chris said. Right now. Pack up and hike out. It's a 6-hour hike to the car, Danny said. Then we start now. And go where? Danny's voice was different. Not calm anymore. Not panicked either. Somewhere in between. A register I'd never heard from him. If we've been here before, if we keep coming back and forgetting, then leaving doesn't fix anything. We left last time. We forgot last time. We're here again. You don't know that. My phone does. Silence. Chris turned away, walked to the stream, stood with his back to us, hands on his hips, looking at the water like it might offer something the rest of us couldn't. Ray sat down slowly. Her journal was still open in her lap, the page from March facing up. She ran her finger along the words. There's something else, she said, almost a whisper. What? The handwriting changes at the end, my entry. The last 2 lines, the pen pressure is different, heavier. The letters are tighter. She held the journal toward me. I leaned in. The last 2 lines read, we stood in the clearing in a pattern. I don't remember walking there, but my hands were in the soil and my mouth was moving, and I think I was saying something important. I think we all were. The pen had nearly torn through the page. Something in my chest constricted. Not my heart. Deeper. The place where instinct lives. The part that doesn't need evidence to know something is wrong. We'd been here before. We'd heard the footsteps before. We'd found the prints, heard the voices, felt the recognition. All of it before. And then we'd forgotten. Completely. So completely that when Danny suggested the trip, it felt new. When we hiked in, it felt like discovery. When the footsteps came, it felt like the first time. But it wasn't the first time. The note said so. The photos said so. The dirt under our nails said so. And somewhere in the gap between what we remembered and what we'd done, there was a pattern, a circle, the same shape as the footprints around the tents. We were walking it too. And the question I couldn't stop thinking, the one that made the trees feel closer and the clearing feel smaller, and the daylight feel thinner than it should, was how many loops had we already completed? And what happens when we finish the last one? Nobody packed up? Nobody hiked out? That's the part I keep coming back to. We had the entire day, 6 hours of sunlight, a clear trail mostly, 4 functioning bodies, 4 packs, a GPS unit that still held the waypoint for the car. We could have left. We talked about it. Chris brought it up 3 more times, each time something interrupted. A task that needed doing, a meal that needed cooking, a conversation that drifted sideways and never came back. It was like the decision to leave kept forming and then dissolving over and over, the way a word you're trying to remember sits on the tip of your tongue and then retreats. By 4 o'clock, we'd stopped mentioning it. By 6, we were cooking dinner. By 8, we were sitting in the same circle, watching the same clearing go dark, as if the day had been a loop we were already inside of. Strange? Wrong? But none of us said so. The plan for the 3rd night was simple. Stay together, stay awake, all 4 of us in one tent. Danny's the largest. Sitting up, lights on, talking. If something happened, we'd all see it. If someone tried to leave, the others would stop them. No more waking up with dirt under our nails. No more boot prints we couldn't explain. No more forgetting. That was the plan. We zipped into Danny's tent at 9. 4 headlamps. 4 sleeping bags used as seat cushions. A thermos of coffee. Playing cards that nobody actually played. Ray sat near the door. Chris across from her. Danny and I took the back corners. Enough room to sit, Not enough to lie down. Good. Lying down was dangerous. Lying down was how you lost time. We talked, forced at first, then easier. College stories mostly, old jokes with familiar punchlines. The kind of conversation designed to fill space, to keep the silence from getting in. Ray laughed at something Chris said, and for a moment, just a moment, it felt normal. The headlamps made the tent walls glow. Warm, amber. 4 overlapping circles of light, shifting as we moved. From outside, it probably looked like any other campsite. Bright and safe and human. 10 o'clock. 10:30. 11. The wind was steady, gentle. The tent breathed with it. The stream filled the gaps between words. My watch ticked toward midnight. I was watching Ray tell a story about a road trip when I noticed something. Her mouth was moving, but the words had stopped making sense. Not gibberish, not nonsense, it's just soft, blurred at the edges, like listening to someone talk through water. The consonants dissolved. The vowels stretched. I blinked. Looked at Danny. He was nodding along, but his eyes were wrong, half-focused, aimed at a point somewhere behind Ray's head, somewhere that wasn't inside the tent. Chris was still, too still. His hands were on his knees. His back was straight. His eyes were open, but they weren't tracking anything. Fixed forward, glassy. Chris. No response. Chris. Nothing, not a twitch. I reached for his arm. My hand moved slowly, too slowly, like the air had thickened, like the space between us had gained weight. My fingers touched his sleeve, and the headlamps went out. All 4, simultaneously, not dying, extinguished, like something had pressed a hand over each one at the same time. Dark, complete dark, the kind of dark that has presence. The kind you can feel against your face, pressing inward, filling the space where light used to be. I tried to speak. My mouth opened. Something came out, but it wasn't a word. It was a sound, low, formless, a vibration in my throat that didn't reach my tongue. The tent was gone, not collapsed, not blown away, gone from around me the way a dream location changes between one thought and the next. One moment I was sitting on nylon, surrounded by fabric walls. The next, cold air, open sky, soil under my palms. I was outside, kneeling in the clearing. Moonlight, bright, brighter than it should have been, turning everything silver white, shadowless. The tents were behind me, all 4 of them, zipped shut, dark. The stream ran to my left. The trees stood at the edges, and the others were there. Danny, Ray, Chris, all kneeling, spaced evenly around a point in the center of the clearing, forming a shape I recognized before I understood it. A circle, the same circle as the footprints. We were the pattern. My hands were in the soil, pushed deep, fingers curled into the earth like roots. Cold, wet. The dirt packed under my nails, filling the spaces, dark and deliberate. I tried to pull them free. They didn't move, not restrained, not stuck. My body simply wouldn't obey. The signal went from my brain to my arms and dissolved somewhere in between, eaten by something that had better instructions. Across from me, Danny's mouth was moving, speaking, low, continuous. The same half-whisper I'd heard outside my tent 2 nights ago. The same fragment repeated in a rhythm that matched the pulse I could feel in the ground beneath my knees. His eyes were open. They weren't his. Not different in color, not glowing, not visibly wrong, but emptied. The thing that made them Danny's, the intelligence, the humor, the 15 years of history I could usually see in them, was absent, replaced by focus, pure, mechanical focus. He was reciting something. Ray's mouth was moving too. Different words, but the same cadence, same rhythm. Her eyes had the same emptiness. Chris was silent, but his lips were shaping sounds without releasing them, like a rehearsal. My jaw ached. I realized my mouth had been moving too. I couldn't feel it until that moment. Like discovering your hand is on a hot surface. The pain arrives after the awareness. My tongue was pressing syllables against the roof of my mouth, shaping sounds I didn't recognize in a pattern I didn't choose. I was speaking, had been speaking. For how long? Terror doesn't always come as a spike. Sometimes it arrives as a tide, slow, rising, filling spaces you didn't know were empty until they're full. That's how it came now. Not a scream, not a jolt, but a slow, drowning certainty that I was not in control of my own body, that I hadn't been in control for some time. The speaking continued. All four of us, kneeling in the clearing, hands in the soil, mouths moving in coordinated rhythm. Not unison, harmony, different parts of the same thing, layered and interlocking, building towards something I could almost hear the shape of. Then it stopped, all at once, like the end of a held chord. Silence. The clearing held its breath. My hands released from the soil. I felt them come free, cold, cramped, aching at the knuckles. I pulled them up and held them in front of my face, black with earth. Feeling returned in stages. My knees first, pain from kneeling on rock. Then my back, stiff and locked. Then my chest, where my heart was beating at a speed that didn't match the stillness of the scene. I looked at the others. They were coming back too. Danny blinked. Ray's hands shook as she lifted them from the ground. Chris inhaled sharply like a man surfacing. Nobody spoke. What do you say? What words exist for the moment you realize you've been used? Not attacked, not threatened, used, like a tool that's been picked up and put down and doesn't remember the work it performed. I stood first, legs weak, vision swimming at the edges. The clearing was unchanged. Tents, trees, stream, moonlight, all exactly as it should be, except for the marks in the soil where we'd been kneeling. 4 depressions, evenly spaced, forming the circle, and from each one a trail of disturbed earth leading to the center point, where the soil was torn up in a rough patch about 2 feet wide. We'd been digging, all of us, toward the center, hands in the earth, pulling, pressing, moving soil with our fingers while our mouths spoke words we didn't understand. I walked toward the center. Danny said something behind me. My name maybe, or a warning, but I was already moving. The disturbed soil was loose, fresh, dark beneath the surface layer. Whatever we'd been uncovering, we hadn't reached it. The hole was shallow, 6 inches at most. Our fingers had cleared that much before the pattern stopped, but the footprints around the hole, the footprints made me stop. 5 sets. I counted them, slowly, deliberately, starting from my own kneeling mark and tracing the tracks that circled the disturbed center. 4 matched us, my boots, Danny's, Ray's, Chris's. The 5th set was different, smaller, narrower, a tread pattern I didn't recognize, smoother than hiking boots, more like a work shoe or a flat-soled sneaker, pressed deep into the soil, deliberate, walking the same circle, the same 4 loops, the same pattern as the rest. But there was no 5th person. Danny. He was beside me now, looking down. Count the tracks. He counted. His lips moved silently with each number. When he reached 5, he stopped. There's 4 of us, he said. I know. There's 5 sets of prints. I know. Ray and Chris came closer, saw the prints. Chris crouched down and touched the 5th track, pressing his finger into the tread mark. Fresh, made tonight? Who else is here? Ray's voice was barely audible. The clearing offered nothing. Trees, moonlight, stream, tents. 4 people, standing around a shallow hole they dug with their bare hands, while speaking words they couldn't remember. And evidence of a 5th, walking with them, circling with them. Part of the pattern, right there, in the formation, close enough to touch, but invisible. The trees pressed inward, not moving, just present, watching if trees could watch. The moonlight felt different now, not illuminating, exposing every shadow that wasn't a shadow, every space between trunks that could hold a shape. Danny grabbed my arm, tight. His fingers dug in hard enough to hurt. Look at the formation, he whispered. I looked. 4 kneeling marks evenly spaced in a circle. There should be 4 points, he said. If 4 people kneel in a circle, they make 4 points. I nodded. Count the kneeling marks. I counted. There were 5 depressions in the soil, 5 sets of knees pressed into the earth, 5 places where someone had knelt and pushed their hands into the ground and spoken words that built towards something none of us could name. 4 of them were ours. The 5th was directly to my left, where 20 minutes ago something had been kneeling right beside me in the dark, close enough that I should have felt its warmth, its weight, its breath, and I hadn't felt anything at all. The next 3 hours were the longest of my life. We didn't go back to the tents, didn't sit down, didn't separate. The 4 of us stood in the center of the clearing, shoulder to shoulder, facing outward in different directions, watching the tree line, watching the shadows between the trunks, watching for movement that matched a 5th set of boots. Nothing came. Nothing left either. That was the worst part. Whatever had knelt beside me, whatever had walked the circle with us, spoken with us, dug with us, it hadn't left tracks leading away. The 5th set of prints circled the hole and then just stopped. No exit trail, no departure. Still here. Somewhere. Dawn didn't arrive gently. It cracked the sky open from the east like a wound, red and raw. The kind of sunrise that looks more like an ending than a beginning. The trees turned from black to green. The stream caught the light and threw it sideways. The clearing was exposed. Every mark, every print, every disturbed patch of earth. The evidence of what we'd done and what had been done with us was written into the ground like a confession we hadn't meant to make. I made the decision before anyone else spoke. We're leaving. Now. Not a suggestion. Not a discussion. A command. Spoken loud enough to break whatever trance the clearing still held. Chris was already nodding. Ray had her pack half assembled before I finished the sentence. The speed of it told me everything. They'd been waiting for someone to say it. Waiting for permission to run. Danny didn't move. He was standing near the shallow hole, looking down into it. His hands hung at his sides, still dark with soil. His face was blank. Not scared, not confused. Calm. The wrong kind of calm. Danny, pack your tent. He looked at me, and for a moment, brief, cold, unmistakable, his eyes weren't his. The same emptiness I'd seen during the circle. The same focused absence, like something was looking through him, using his face the way you'd use a window. Then it passed. He blinked. The life came back. Yeah, he said, okay. But he moved slowly, too slowly, folding his tent with the care of someone who expected to come back. We broke camp in 20 minutes. Tents down, bags packed, stove stowed. Ray filled the water bottles from the stream without looking at the water for more than a second. Chris dismantled the fire pit and scattered the stones. I swept the area, not for cleanliness, but for something else. A need I couldn't articulate. To undo the pattern, to break the shape the clearing held. I kicked through the footprints. All of them. Dragged my boot across the kneeling marks. Scraped soil over the shallow hole until it was flat again. It didn't feel like enough. Let's go. We started hiking. Single file, Chris in front. Ray behind him, me third, Danny at the back. The trail was easier in daylight, the broken branches and boot-width path visible enough to follow without thinking. For the first 30 minutes, nobody spoke. Just the sound of boots on soil, breathing, packs shifting. Normal sounds. Hiking sounds. Then Ray stopped. Where's Danny? I turned around. The trail behind me was empty. Not far away empty. Immediately empty. He'd been 10 feet behind me. I'd heard his footsteps, his breathing, the creak of his pack straps. Gone. Danny? My voice hit the trees and came back flat. No echo. The forest swallowed it. Danny? Nothing. Chris was already moving back down the trail. I followed. Ray stayed, anchoring the spot so we wouldn't lose our position. We walked back 50 yards. 100. The trail was undisturbed. No sign of someone stepping off the path. No broken branches. No scuffed soil, just the tracks we'd already made. 4 sets of boot prints heading downhill. Then 3, then 2. I stopped walking and looked at the ground. The prints changed gradually, not at a single point, but over a stretch of about 20 feet. Danny's prints faded, not ended, faded. The impressions grew shallower, lighter, less defined, until they were just scuffs in the dirt, and then nothing. Like he'd become lighter with each step, like he'd been evaporating. He went back, Chris said, flat, certain. We would have seen him turn around. He went back. I looked at Chris. His face was tight. His eyes were wet but not crying. The expression of a man who has arrived at a conclusion he doesn't want to carry. We can't go back for him, he said. The words sat in the air between us. Wrong, monstrous. The kind of thing you don't say about a friend you've known for 15 years. But I understood. I understood the way you understand that a current is stronger than your arms. The way you understand that a fire has reached the walls, not with reason, with something older. Going back meant re-entering the clearing, re-entering the circle, kneeling again, speaking again, losing time again, and this time, maybe not coming back. He chose it, Chris said. Quieter now. You saw his eyes this morning. He wasn't fighting it anymore. I wanted to argue. The word no formed in my throat and dissolved before it reached my mouth, because Chris was right. Danny had stopped fighting. Maybe last night. Maybe before that. Maybe on the first trip, the one none of us remembered. At some point, the clearing had offered him something, completion, belonging, an answer to the pattern, and he'd accepted. We hiked back to Ray. Where is he? He's not coming. Her face broke, not into tears, into something harder. A fracture line running through the expression, separating the part of her that understood from the part that refused to. We have to leave. 3 words. The cruelest 3 words I've ever spoken. We hiked out in 2.5 hours. Faster than the way in. Gravity helped. Fear helped more. The trail widened. The trees thinned. The sound of the stream faded behind us, replaced by wind and bird song, and eventually, distantly, the sound of a road. The car was where we'd left it. Dusty, normal. A machine built for leaving places, and I had never been so grateful for anything made of metal in my life. Chris drove. Ray took the back seat. I sat in the passenger side, pack on my lap, because I didn't want to open the trunk. Didn't want to stop moving. The engine started. The tires found the gravel. The forest pulled away in the mirrors, shrinking, losing its hold. We drove in silence for 40 minutes. Then I noticed something about Chris. His hands on the wheel, 10 and 2, steady, normal driving posture. But his fingers were wrong, not shaking, not injured. Clean, perfectly clean. We'd all had dirt under our nails since the second night. Deep, packed soil that wouldn't come out with stream water or hand sanitizer. Ray still had it. I'd seen her hands when she climbed into the car. I had it. Dark crescents under every nail. Chris's nails were spotless. White, trimmed, like he'd never touched soil. I looked at his face. Profile view, lit by the afternoon sun through the windshield. Same features, same jaw, same nose, same 3-day stubble. But something in the way he held his mouth. The lips set a fraction too evenly, the breathing too regular. No swallowing, no micro expressions, no unconscious movement of the face muscles that every living person makes without thinking. He was too still, too smooth. Ray met my eyes in the rearview mirror. She'd seen it too. Her face told me everything. The tight lips, the wide eyes, the almost imperceptible shake of her head. Don't say anything. Don't let him know you've noticed. My phone was in my jacket pocket. I pulled it out slowly, opened the camera roll. I don't know what I was looking for. Evidence, confirmation, something that would make the feeling in my chest resolve into a fact I could hold. The most recent photo was time-stamped 6:47 that morning. I hadn't taken a photo at 6:47. At 6:47, I'd been dismantling my tent, both hands occupied, phone in my pack, the image loaded, the clearing, dawn light, wide angle taken from the tree line, the same vantage point as the March photos, the same position in the forest, looking in, 5 figures standing in the center. Not 4, 5. 4 of them were us. I could make out the colors of our jackets, the shapes of our packs. Standing in a loose group, facing each other. The 5th was behind us, at the edge of the frame, partially obscured by a trunk, shaped like a person, standing the way a person stands. But wrong in a way the photo couldn't quite capture and my eyes couldn't quite define. Proportions that almost worked. A posture that almost matched. A silhouette that was close enough to human that you'd accept it at a glance and only feel the error later, in your chest, in the part of you that knows before you do. 3 of us got in the car. I looked at Chris. Clean hands, still face, even breathing. 3 of us got in the car, but I wasn't sure 3 of us had walked out of that forest. I closed the phone, looked at the road. The mountains shrank behind us. The trees gave way to scrubland, then fences, then gas stations and speed limit signs, and all the small, ordinary markers of a world that doesn't kneel in circles at midnight. Ray's hand found the back of my seat. Her fingers gripped the fabric, tight, trembling. She knew. Chris drove, smooth, steady eyes on the road, and somewhere behind us, or beside us, or inside the car with us, the 5th set of footprints had found a new clearing to circle. I think about it every night. Not the forest, not the footprints, not Danny, the sound, the first night, the one we dismissed as wind, the breathing against the tent wall, the footsteps that walked in human rhythm. We thought it was outside. We thought something was circling our tents, pressing close, learning our shapes, but the zipper was opened from the inside. The dirt was already under our nails. The photos were already on our phones. It was never outside the tent. It was us. It was always us. And the thing I can't stop hearing, the thing that plays on a loop when I close my eyes and the room goes quiet and the air feels a little too still, is that I don't remember driving the rest of the way home. But I got here. Whoever I am now, I got here.